Air France Flight 296 was a chartered flight of a new Airbus A320-111, operated by Air France for air charter. On 26 June 1988, the plane crashed while making a low pass over Mulhouse-Habsheim Airport as part of the Habsheim Air Show. Most of the crash sequence, which occurred in front of several thousand spectators, was caught on video. The cause of the crash has been the source of major controversy. The accident aircraft, an Airbus A320-111, registration FGFKC, serial number 9, first flew on 6 January 1988 and was delivered to Air France on 23 June, 3 days prior to its destruction. It was the third A320 delivered to Air France, the launch customer. Flight deck crew, Captain Michel Asselin, 44, had been a pilot with Air France for almost 20 years and had the following endorsements: Caravelle, Boeing 707, 727, and 737, and Airbus A300 and A310. He was a highly distinguished pilot with 10,463 flight hours, a training captain since 1979. Asselin was appointed to head the company's A320 training subdivision at the end of 1987. First Officer Pierre Mézières, 45, had been flying with the airline since 1969 and had been a training captain for 6 years. He was endorsed on the Caravelle, Boeing 707 and 737, and had qualified as an A320 captain 3 months before the accident. Mézières had 10,853 hours of flight time. The flight plan was that as they approached the airfield, they would extend the third stage flap, lower the landing gear, and line up for level flight at 100 feet. The captain would slow the aircraft to its minimum flying speed with maximum angle of attack, disable the alpha floor, the function that would otherwise automatically increase engine thrust when the angle of attack reached 15 degrees, and rely on the first officer to adjust the engine thrust manually to maintain 100 feet. After the first pass, the first officer would then apply the takeoff go-around switch, toga, power and climb steeply before turning back for the second pass. "I've done it 20 times," Asselin assured his first officer. The flyover had been approved by Air France's Air Operations Directorate and Flight Safety Department, and Air Traffic Control in Basel Tower had been informed. Habsheim Aerodrome was too small to be listed in the aircraft's flight computer, thereby requiring a visual approach. Both pilots were also unfamiliar with the airfield when they began their descent from 2,000 feet, 610 meters, only 6 nautical miles, 11 kilometers, from the field. This distance was too short for them to stabilize the aircraft's altitude and speed for the flyover. Additionally, the captain was expecting from the flight plan to do the pass over runway 02, 3,281 feet, 1,000 meters, long, paved, and was preparing for that alignment. But as the aircraft approached the field, the flight deck crew noticed that the spectators were gathered beside runway 34R, 2,100 feet, 640 meters, long, grass. This last-minute deviation in the approach further distracted the crew from stabilizing the aircraft's altitude, and they quickly dropped to 40 feet. From higher up, the forest at the end of 34R had looked like a different type of grass. But now that the aircraft was performing its flyover at only 30 feet, the crew noticed the aircraft was lower than the now identified hazard, that they were fast approaching. The cockpit voice recorder recorded the first officer's call: "First officer, toga power. Go around track," followed by cockpit area microphone, "Increase in engine speed." "Captain, oh shit, noises of impact in the trees, end of tape." The crew applied full power and Asselin attempted to climb. However, the elevators did not respond to the pilot's commands because the A320's computer system engaged its alpha protection mode, meant to prevent the aircraft from entering a stall. Less than 5 seconds later, the turbines began ingesting leaves and branches as the aircraft skimmed the tops of the trees. The combustion chambers clogged and the engines failed. The aircraft fell to the ground. Traditionally, pilots respect the inherent dangers of flying at low speeds at low altitude, and normally, a pilot would not attempt to fly an aircraft so close to stalling with the engines at flight idle, minimum thrust setting in flight. In this instance, however, The pilots involved did not hesitate to fly the aircraft below its normal minimum flying speed because the purpose of the flyover was to demonstrate that the aircraft's computer systems would ensure that lift would always be available regardless of how the pilots handled the controls. Asline's experience of flying the aircraft type at the outer limits of its flight performance envelope may have led to overconfidence and